the Beer and Inks podcast. I'm Jessica, and I'm here as always with my wonderful husband, Ryan.
Hello.
Today's episode might be a little all over the place because we are kind of exhausted, I'll be honest. It was a big day for us. Tell them a little bit. I guess, yeah, you don't have to give details, but tell them a little bit about what today was for us.
What was today? That's the real question.
Today was our first, complete day as foster parents.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're in shock.
Yeah, so I told Ryan yesterday, before we got our first placement, I was like, the feeling that I'm having right now is a lot like right before you give birth. You just don't know. Like, nothing's guaranteed, but it's going to happen and it's going to be big. And so it's like a mixture of excitement and also like a little bit of fear of, the unknown.
Yeah, I would say it's like basically a little anxiety driven in my case. But it wasn't a bad day.
Not at all, no.
Yeah, it was a really good day. I think we're just tired.
I think it was emotionally trying. Does that sound right? Is that accurate for you?
Yeah.
I went through probably 12 ups and downs.
Which is like 6 more than normal. I'm just
kidding. Oh wow, thanks. That makes me sound really unstable.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I want to say something really quick. Like, how amazing and wise of God to have our first full day as foster parents be a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
We got to spend the morning, with our church family. Mm-hmm. And they all were so encouraging. And I could see them really, excited at, being able to meet our foster child. And it was just really good. I felt really, supported and mm-hmm. loved, Even though not a whole lot was done, just being with them was very good. I'm glad that God orchestrated it that way.
Yeah.
That's the only response you have.
Yeah. It was, for other reasons, I got called into work.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, today.
Yeah.
There's a lot that happened today. Yes, Ryan got called into work for an emergency.
Yeah. So,
man.
Which, that didn't really end well.
Yeah, it was a tragic ending. So we've been a little all over the place today.
Yeah, it's been a weird day. I'd say weird would be my term for it.
Weird.
Just
yeah, that's a good blanket statement. Weird.
Yeah. But I don't know. We're here now. We're doing our podcast.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do on Sunday nights.
We are back at it.
Yeah.
And today I'm planning on talking about music. And I'm intentionally going to leave the prompt today super broad.
Okay, good,
because my brain is just a little fried.
Yeah.
But I do have a lot to say about music.
All right. Well,
I'm not committed to an outline or anything like that. We're just going to talk about music.
All right. Where do you want to start with this?
Well, we kind of...
Can we talk about how much we hate country music?
Okay, well, here's the thing. I don't hate country music. But I was hoping this episode would be not one of, oh, I hate this, or I can't stand this, or I disagree with this, but pointing towards something that we do like and support and would want to point people to.
Okay.
Because we kind of gave Lauren Daigle a hard time last week.
Well,
we were a little negative. Oh, wait, can I say something else?
You think just a little negative is pretty
Just a little bit. Can I say one more thing before we really get into it?
Yeah.
I've been incredibly humbled through this podcast. I don't know about you.
In what way?
But, like,
What do you mean?
I will go back and I will listen to our episodes, and I realize a couple of things. First of all, I have really poor listening skills. Like, they are exceptionally bad. Would you agree with that?
I'd say normally you don't. Maybe when you're in podcast mode a little bit.
Maybe that's what it is, because I will go back and listen and I'll hear something you say or like a question you ask me, and I'm just off in like my own world. I'm just like have this like idea of what the episode should be, and I'm like trying to focus, and really it should just be us talking, you know.
Yeah, I that comes with time though. That's like,
yeah,
that's what everyone talks about, why podcasts are like so cringy at the beginning, because like, you remember Ethan and Ela, the H3 podcast, how he had that episode with JonTron.
I remember the episode. I don't remember a whole lot that they talked about.
He wouldn't, like, JonTron wanted to move on from questions about, so there's like this big scandal, or not scandal, it wasn't really a scandal. He said some things that the public didn't like the general public didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
They basically thought he was a racist or whatever. They didn't agree with what he said, regardless. But Ethan would not move on. This is a couple years after the fact.
Oh, and he was giving him hints like, hey, I'm done talking about
because
this.
Because he had his outline, and he was just like, well, I gotta ask him question 1. And then when we're done with question 1, we're gonna ask him question 2. And it's all on this topic.
And he wasn't picking up on, like, the social cues, like, hey.
It was follow the outline, not engage the guy you're interviewing.
Mm-hmm.
And Ethan talks about it later. I haven't watched their podcast recently. I'm curious
I tried the other day. Not the other day, but maybe, like, a couple weeks ago. And I feel bad, but I couldn't get through it.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it just the topic?
I don't know. It just wasn't interesting to me. Not like it used to be.
After doing a couple of episodes, it's interesting to go watch other people podcast or listen,
mm-hmm.
and compare, like, their mannerisms or how they go from one thing to another. Like, it's a craft.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It's an art.
And I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm saying I am realizing the people who are good at it, like how they do these things. And so if you watch like Joe Rogan ever, that dude
I have in the past.
Has like, the reason he's so nice to listen to, I feel like for most people, is because he's got a list of like 37 things on his mind, 37 different ways this thing could go ahead of time in this conversation, and he can just seamlessly like float from one thing to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so nice because it's not choppy, and it's not like, and when he wants to push a point, it's because he actually has something he like cares about in that point.
Mm-hmm. He's passionate about it. He's not just pushing it just because he thinks it'll be good or it needs to be emphasized, but that he actually really wants to talk about that.
And it's not like a power play either. I think sometimes it could be if you're interviewing someone like difficult, or someone you're not meshing well with, it could be kind of a power play thing. But I feel like a lot of his stuff, I don't know about his recent stuff. I watched a lot of his older podcasts.
Yeah, I haven't watched an episode of his in years.
Well, he's not on YouTube anymore.
Really?
He's not. I'm pretty sure he's Spotify only. So I've only watched him during his
Spotify
YouTube.
exclusive.
Mm-hmm. He signed a big deal with them.
That's
so I
cool.
only watched him when he was on like YouTube. But anyways,
yeah, it's a talent. I feel like to be a good podcaster, you really need to be a good conversationalist, which I never have been. I'm not good at speaking or listening.
No,
but,
you do fine.
But I get by.
You do fine.
But yeah, that's what I meant when I was saying I've been humbled. Like, I don't know. I think everyone has this, but they have this like picture in their head of like how they come across. And I think I realized, like, oh, I'm just kind of like everybody else, you know, just like not this exceptional speaker, have all this wise, like, knowledge and stuff to share, but I'm just a person getting by. I'm just a Christian following the Lord. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's humbling to hear yourself and be like, yeah, that's a pretty average thought there. Great job.
I don't go back and listen.
You don't?
No.
You should.
Well, here's the thing, right? So, like, on a podcast, I can just talk about whatever. And I feel like I can get my point across normally okay. But, like, in real life, well, maybe that's what it is. I just don't view this as real life. Like, I just, in the same way at work, you know, it has a purpose. And my purpose is just to talk about something.
But all of that is real life.
Yeah, but I don't.
That is a part of life.
But like when I'm talking to someone face to face, or in a group, that anxiety is not there when I'm just behind a microphone or talking to you.
Oh yeah.
Or even talking to people I don't know, like on a radio. It's not a problem, but.
It's not the same as actual one-to-one interaction with people.
Yeah. Which one-to-one I feel like I do generally pretty good. It's like more than 3 or 4.
Yeah, you get in a group rough. And it's like, oh, yeah, the anxiety kicks in.
Yeah. The boss music starts playing.
The boss music?
Yeah.
The final boss is this music. Huge group of people.
Basically. But yeah, music.
So anyway, music. Yeah, but so we gave Lauren Daigle a kind of a hard time, which I still stand by what I said. But
to be clear.
To be clear. But I was hoping, because music has been such a huge part of my young life as a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Like my faith ever since I was saved. I really didn't care for it before. Like, I've never been musical. But
like music in general, or Christian
just in
music?
general.
Okay.
I'm talking in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started really studying the Psalms, I realized that, like, all these songs were just coming to my mind. Like, I just instinctively was singing them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just an outpouring of what I was learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is so cool, because, you know, God is so good and his word is so amazing that it could bring forth beautiful praise out of someone who really, that's not like their natural talent. Because I wouldn't consider myself really musical.
I think that's an interesting. You don't think of yourself as musical.
Well, maybe now. But
well, I don't think you had ever really tried it before.
I had. That's the thing. Yes. Okay. I took piano lessons as a kid, and it never stuck.
I mean, I took piano lessons as a kid.
But you actually remember things. I'm just like, oh, yep, this is a white key, and this is a black key, and this is C, middle C.
I might remember things, but I've never created anything in that realm. You know, I dabble. Like, I have a guitar. Mm-hmm. I have a keyboard. Mm-hmm. It's like, cool. Those things sit in the corner and collect dust.
You have always surrounded yourself with music, though.
Yeah. Less
like,
so
you've
now.
always really appreciated music. Because I remember, maybe not now, but back when I was a teen, it was like music was kind of neither here nor there. Like, I didn't play music to enjoy it. It was just, oh, this is a song, you know, this song is playing. But then when we started dating, I realized you would put music on, and you would actually would appreciate it, and it would I don't know how to say it, not like a way to cope, but you would use it as a tool, I feel like, whether consciously or not, to get through something, or to set the mood for the day, you know.
It was definitely coping as well, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if other people experience this, but I couldn't, for a long time, I couldn't stand silence.
I've never had a problem with silence.
I can't do it. Or I couldn't do it. I can't now. But
you can't, or you can now?
I can stand silence now.
Yeah, well, silence is beautiful now
Yes.
after having 3 kids.
Yeah, it's something it's something I live for. No, but I never thought about like the lyrics. I don't think very deeply.
Mm-hmm.
About anything I listened to. I just wanted it to sound good, and I think that's how a majority of people listen to music.
Mm-hmm.
They want to hear a sound that entices them,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily think about the repercussions of what it's saying, or they just don't think that there are really any consequences to what's being said.
If they believe that, can I be the first one to break it to them that it does impact you deeply? Music is very powerful, and it's like I don't know, would you call it soul food, or is that being too dramatic?
I think it's a little dramatic.
It can be super hypnotizing. And if you're feeding your mind something incredibly hypnotizing that is bad for you, that encourages sin, or that glorifies evil, obviously that's not going to be good for you.
So my opinion on this, I guess it's just an opinion, but I don't think outside things like music can change your heart.
Oh, we just talked about this today. This was what Matt's sermon was on today.
Yeah, so what's happening is out of your heart that is corrupt.
It is what comes out of your heart that defiles you, right? That's what that verse is.
It's what comes out of your heart that makes you reach out for those things that you want to hear, right? So if rebellion, so in my teen years, rebellion was in my heart, and so I wanted to hear things that my parents wouldn't like. Mm-hmm. So a lot of rap, a lot of, not so much when I was in high school.
There's some good rap. There's some God-glorifying rap out there.
Sure.
Maybe not when we were teens, but yeah.
The rap isn't inherently what's causing me to like go sin or something. You know what I mean?
It's
like listening to rap isn't gonna make me go rob a store. Right. My heart desiring that, to bring that into my life, I might also desire to go rob a store or something crazy off the wall. But it is compounding, I think. Mm-hmm. And so people see what you listen to as a red flag. So
because
like for my
it
parents,
could be a reflection of what is happening inside. Yeah.
But it's not inherently that thing that's making you go do something.
That's interesting. That's kind of opposite of what I had been thinking of it as. I'd been thinking of it more as something that you feed yourself and your mind, and it could either grow you and help you or harm you.
There's some semblance to that, like where you're putting yourself in a loop, right? And so my dad would always say like garbage in, garbage out type of thing. So you ingest garbage and out of your life is going to come garbage. And there is some truth to that, but what's driving you to grab more garbage and ingest it is the deeper issue there.
Right. Well, as like a follower of Christ, I don't really desire to listen to a whole bunch of secular music anymore. Not to say that it's bad. There's a lot of really good secular music that can be like God glorifying indirectly. But is it bad that I just don't I have no desire most of the time to listen to it? Maybe that's just me.
It's
where I'm at spiritually.
Yeah. It's so hard though, like listening to because where I work, you just have to listen to the radio, and there's like 8 stations in here or something, like
Yeah.
super tiny, right? And one's your like pop, your like top 10, whatever. There's a couple country stations, and then there's like K-Love. And honestly, I think I cringe harder at K-Love than I do some of the secular music. And I don't know if that's because, I think it's because I know what I'm going to get with the secular music. And it's not lying to me.
So it's,
you know what I mean?
it's
But like K-Love,
your
I
hopes
feel
kind of get dashed because you.
it feels disingenuous some of
Yeah.
the time with certain artists. So I find myself listening to country a lot. I
Don't hate on country.
I
I love country.
don't
I grew
like
up with country.
country very much because it's like a sugar-coated secular like pop song. You know what I mean? It's like we'll throw some trucks and some like
drugs.
some like blue
wholesome.
jeans in there, but we're really talking about the same things.
Yes.
you know?
Actually, yeah, you bring up a really good point. When I was in elementary school, which is so funny, I was not allowed to listen to any music but Christian music and country music.
Mhm.
And I think it's just because my dad really liked country music.
Mhm.
Or like my parents had this idea that maybe it was more wholesome. But like there are some really horrible country songs. Like
Yeah.
not like horrible sounding, but they have horrible content.
Well, it's
Like
it's
some
more
like they're
accepted.
raunchy, and it's like this is not like this is not a good song.
It's interesting how it's more accepted just because it is more overt, which arguably is better than just being super in your face about.
You mean
know,
covert?
over? Oh, did I say it backwards?
I think so.
Okay, so it's more hidden,
Yeah.
like all the dirty jokes in like Pixar movies, or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's really about the same thing that all other secular music is about.
Right.
Well,
Well, and
love, sex, and drugs.
if we stay
addiction.
consistent with what you were saying, that music is just a reflection of what is going on in our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
We know the Bible says the heart is dangerously wicked or
Mhm.
deceitfully wicked. Of course, every genre of music is going to be affected by that because people are writing this music.
Well,
and people, wherever they are, if they're, unrepentant, you know what I'm saying? They
yeah.
very well could produce things that are not good.
Well,
It's going to be a reflection of what's going on inside of you.
It's a non-hidden, like non-secret reflection of the human condition, right?
Yes. I think
And-
you just put it way better than I put it.
They're being honest about this issue, right? They're glorifying it, to be sure. They're profiting
It's not
off of it, right?
not honorable to be
It's not
honest about that.
honorable.
But yeah, you're right. They
But
are being honest.
Is it any more honorable to be disingenuous about the human condition? Because
that's an interesting point.
a lot of contemporary Christian music is not worship music. It's self-centered, like pick-me-up music.
Self-soothing, yeah.
Self-soothing.
Which, I mean,
And they're telling lies about people.
well, it depends
And
on the
there's-
song, right?
Yeah, of course. But in general, the feel-good like songs that are supposed to be pick-me-ups about how strong you are, or like how good you are, or whatever, are disingenuous in the fact that they are not a reflection of the
How
human
things
condition.
really are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why we need Christ, and they call
It's
them worship songs. You know what I mean?
Escapism, right?
Sure.
That's what
Well,
you're
they're
getting
selling
into.
you an emotion.
Sure. Oh, and yeah, that is a quick fix that doesn't last, I
Yeah.
would say. But when you have amazing music that is rooted in something true and
Mhm.
eternal, it points you beyond itself to the one who is stable and unchanging, who is God. And that music can be incredibly healing.
Well, and that's what a truly good Christian song is.
Right.
Right. It points you to the Creator, and it points you to the good things about Him.
Mm-hmm. And so even when that song is done, like, you have been encouraged to
Mhm.
find your hope in the one who can give you strength for every day.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to keep going back and finding the next song high, you know?
Yeah. Well, and there are genuine pick-me-up songs. There are
Oh,
genuine.
yeah, but if you're having like an existential crisis,
yeah.
you shouldn't run to music, you know?
Well, I don't agree with that
You
either.
don't?
I think music is a wonderful way as a medium to bring you back or point you back to the one who matters.
Right. It's a gift, and we should
Mhm.
we should value the gift, but worship the giver.
Yeah. And so the reason I find the pick-me-up music that is played specifically on Caleb, I don't know about other radio stations, but that I hear on Caleb is so disingenuous to me is because a lot of it is geared towards this power that you have that comes from you. The whole song's about you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't look to myself for my strength. I can't.
Right. I mean, you shouldn't, because I mean, if I were just to look to myself, there is nothing solid there to hold on to.
No.
It's just like an endless loop, just looking back and, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
Like-
it's not that it's a bad song or that it's poorly written or that it's sacrilegious. Some are, but majority are not. It's that I find no hope in the message that it's bringing
Mm-hmm.
when it's claiming or trying to sell me this emotion that I can't have. It's not real.
Well,
and
and
it
when
bothers me when other people
they latch onto it.
it's latched
Yeah.
on, and then there's two sides to that coin, right? There's me saying this song's disingenuous, and then there's the other camp that's like, well, it could have helped some people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay,
Sure, but it's such a weak message compared to the one that we know.
so who do we point to? I
Yeah.
mean, who's bringing them through that message to repentance? Like, there's people that come out of Joel Osteen's church, right? And they say, this isn't good enough for me anymore, and I'm looking for this higher power that Joel alludes to once every couple years in his sermons. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
they come to Christ,
Yeah.
and they find a church home. Some people would say, that we know, would say, oh, well, that's why God has Joel there, is to lead a couple to Christ. But my perspective on that would be, Joel's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's not serving Christ. Yet Christ still he still brings good out of that.
Yes.
It's a miracle.
So you're saying we shouldn't treat bad Christian music pragmatically, is what you're saying? Like, just
Yeah, I don't
because
think
it
so.
mentions Jesus, if it's not giving you the true gospel, the true God, don't use it. Like, not
Yes,
that it's
and
a
that's
sin to listen to it, but
It's a
Yeah.
hard thing to say, right? Because when you put hard lines on things, people get really upset. So for me, just for me, I'm going to put those hard lines and say, I'm not going to listen to that, and I'm going to listen to this,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, and you shouldn't use the music and put your confidence in it like, oh, if I play this song, it's going to win someone to the Lord. If it's a soft song that's not really giving the gospel message.
Well, it's not up to me.
Well, yes.
So that's the great thing, right? So I can sit here and say, for me, this feels disingenuous, and this isn't what I want to listen to, and it's not my witness, right? But for someone else, they listen to it and they're encouraged by it. In that encouragement, what I'm struggling with is like, in that encouragement, is it wrong for me to say that that's to them, hey, what you're listening to is disingenuous?
Is it wrong for you to do that?
Yeah.
Is what you're asking. Depends on how you do it.
Kindly. With love in my heart.
I'm not really saying like that. Obviously, you should be doing it out of love. Otherwise, it's pointless.
Yeah.
But what is your goal in that? Is your goal just to point out this song is dumb? Or is your goal to really find out why they like this song and hopefully help them understand something better?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In my experience, they're not going to understand any part of that conversation of what
we're talking about all these hypothetical bad Christian songs. We have a million going through our head, but we haven't named any specifically.
Yeah.
But
the bigger issue is as a Christian, at least right now, it is inappropriate in the world's eyes for you to poo-poo on anyone's like parade. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it comes to this, well, you're being legalistic, or you're being rude, because God can use anything. And it's like, yeah, God can use anything. That's why he's God. That's why it's so wonderful, right? But just because God can use a heretic to bring people and people still find God through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean, oh, well, we should go donate to this heretic? You know what I mean? It's like, no, you should separate yourself from that.
God saved them despite that, not because of it, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. What are some ways that good Christian music is amazing? Because we've encountered some really good Christian artists the past couple years. And it is such a powerful tool in the hands of God's people. You know? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of like Sovereign Grace music.
Like Poor Richard.
Who is that?
Is that what it's called? The one that sings just literally like through the Bible.
Oh yes, Poor Bishop Hooper.
Poor Bishop Hooper. I don't know why I thought it was.
Someone recommended that to me, and I was like, "This is my jam! Like, I love this." Yeah. Let me think of a few others. I've been listening to a lot of Rivers and Robots. I really like them. I know there's a million others. Keith and Kristen Getty, of course. I mean, they're pretty popular.
But they, again, genuine music, though.
Yeah, genuine. And, like, I don't know if you have a lot of thoughts about this, but good music who is doing the things who does do the things we want it to do. You know, stirring our affections for the right things, pointing us to God. Those things can be incredibly healing. That kind of music is healing in a sense.
Yeah. I don't have.
You don't have any thoughts on
I don't have
that?
the same experience I think you do.
I have felt extremely grateful for good Christian music because it speaks to the emotional side of being human in a good way. And we're so used to our emotions being like manipulated, especially nowadays. I feel like with like advertisements and media and everything. So when it's used in a godly, glorifying way, it's just that much more amazing, And it's sad that I feel like we don't see as much of that.
Yeah, I got rid of my smartphone, so I literally don't listen to like any music anymore. Essentially,
we're living in the dark ages. We both have flip phones.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's not that terrible. It's actually great, but I don't. I listen to a lot of like movie scores now, just like
that's cool.
Thematic stuff. But
see, that's what I'm talking about. You're super musical. You pay attention to the music in movies. I never pay attention to that. I appreciate it, but I'm never like, oh, I need to go listen to that soundtrack,
Yeah, I don't listen to any Christian music at all.
Really?
Yeah.
You were for a little bit there.
Yeah.
Oh, Ghost Ship. That's another good band.
Yeah, they're okay.
Yeah, they're okay.
They've
got a few really good songs.
They performed at Bethel, I think.
No. Did they?
Or it was someone who was questionable, like Joel Osteen or something. Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate.
And it just made me like, I don't know, like if I don't know, so like here's the thing, right? If I don't know the person who's singing personally, a lot of these songs are really like intimate in their what they're trying to do, right? You're talking about entering into,
you are subjecting yourself to something. You're being vulnerable when you listen to music,
and you're worshiping God through it, right? So if I'm gonna do that with someone I don't know, I'm gonna be deeply disappointed if possibly if they're not genuine, and you don't know what's in their heart for why they're doing these things. And so when I go to church, and we know all the people up on stage, it's wonderful to be able to know, at least in part, the hearts of the people that you're entering into worship with.
Yeah.
And that's I find comfort in that, in worshiping with people whose hearts, obviously we're all flawed, but who I can speak with and talk to about things, and know that they're there for the right reasons. Yeah. Whereas in Christian music, 95% of the time, you have exactly what you're gonna who's say. Selling you something.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say a lot of people turn into Christian artists because they can't make it in the secular world.
So there's that aspect of it. There's a lot of,
not always.
There's a lot of videos about it. There's a lot of people who make more money than some secular artists, because they're it's easier to get into the Christian niche, music industry. So you have like people like Katy Perry. That's where she started. Christian music industry, right? You have it's a lower...
Is it a lower standard?
It's a lower standard of entry.
Why is that? Can we talk about that? What are your thoughts?
It's just a smaller market. I think that's really all it is. you don't have as many people trying to get into Christian music as you do into secular music. And a lot of people use the Christian music industry to springboard into
it's probably not as much of a rat race, you know.
It's just a different
world.
Beast. You can talk there's a YouTube video, I think I have it pulled up actually. It's Become the Night. I don't know anything about the rest of his channel, but from Become the Night, he has a two 1 hour videos about the contemporary Christian music industry.
I think I've seen his videos before. Yeah. And
he interviews a couple of his friends. It's obviously a small pool of people about their interactions, over the course of, I think he said 30 combined years in that industry, why some of them have left for the secular industry, and kind of what went on. And a lot of popular big people are very disingenuous about they're just throwing God in there to make money. And it's because they can. So the thing I struggle with when I listen to these people on YouTube or bigger groups that have, an audience and everything, is you always have to remember you're being sold something. And good people can sell good things. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that makes them bad.
Yes, you can make money as a Christian artist. There's nothing wrong with that.
But bad people can sell things disguised as good as well. And when you're entering into something as intimate as worship, I find myself backing off a little bit with caution. Which is not to say, that anyone else should in that sense, but it's something that I've been thinking about lately. And when I hear some of these really pansy songs on Caleb, I'm just like, really? That's what we're going with,
Yeah. It's funny because before I was saved, I remember just absolutely loving Hillsong. Mm-hmm. And that's so funny because it's now I can't really stomach it. And it's not just because of what I know that their church teaches. It's also the music itself. But maybe, I don't know, maybe subconsciously I do associate them. But as an unconverted person, I heard everything they were singing and I had no problem with it. I ate it up. And I don't know, I feel like that says something.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think people give Christian music a pass and they don't think about it. They don't weigh it against the word of God, They don't weigh it against the Bible. They just say, good vibes and good times. It's on K-Love. It's fine. And not that it's the devil or anything, but you should think about what those lyrics are saying.
Yeah. Discernment.
And don't give it a free pass. I find it hard to believe that people are like, oh, well, it's good enough.
I have to be honest, I don't think I know anyone that says that, but maybe you do.
I do. There's a lot of people that, as long as it's not cursing or talking about sex, that they're like, well, that's good.
Oh, it meets their criteria for wholesome.
Yeah, or worship music, honestly. And it's why do we not weigh this the same way that we weigh a sermon?
Well, maybe they don't have biblical standards for worship music.
I don't think it's that they don't have a standard.
I'm not saying a standard. I'm saying a biblical standard.
People give it a pass, right?
Do they know that there is a biblical standard for worship music? Worship used in the congregation on Sunday mornings.
I don't know.
when we gather together.
I'm just saying, I think it's something that's so, what is the word, innocuous? They're just like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's a non-issue. You know what I mean? And they give it a pass when really it's still something that should be weighed heavily,
Yes.
especially if you are going to claim that you're worshiping God with it. And
Right, because you
yeah.
wouldn't sing like, I'm trying to think of someone random. You wouldn't sing a Taylor Swift song to worship the Lord.
But some people would say that you could. You just have to replace a couple words.
Who are these metaphorical people?
These metaphorical people are
that you're talking
regular, everyday people who are not thinking about this. That this is going up to a holy God,
mm-hmm.
and that he decides what is worth, his time and what's not. Just look at Cain and Abel, right? What did Abel give to God? The firstborn of his flock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Abel got some plants together. It doesn't even say they were his best plants, right? And there's some produce, and was like, here you go. And he rejected it, right? Aaron's sons offered incense or weird...
Strange fire? Is that what it is? Or is
That's a name. That's
book, something
right?
else?
Yeah. No,
yeah,
but they
offered something to God that
he didn't
was
ask
not pleasing.
for.
So you're saying God has preferences for how he is
clearly.
worshipped?
Yes.
Yes,
very
this is
clearly.
true.
Right.
And I don't think people know that.
Well, they say that you can use your freedom in that, right? So they take...
Sure, and God wants your
your
worship to be genuine and heartfelt, but he also has standards for how he wants you to do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you
so
can't
what I'm
be
saying
stripping
what I'm
for
saying
Jesus,
is
just-
God's
yeah.
standard for worship is not whatever you feel
Well, what is that standard,
makes
though?
you feel the happiest.
Well, what is that standard?
Like, you want me to think of specifically what I would say God's standards for worship are?
Sure. Like, because there's no like chapter and verse for this, right? It's a theme.
Right.
It's a thematic
something
thing.
that you have to take into account all of Scripture when you approach
And
that.
so-
And I feel very unprepared and inadequate
Yeah,
to
so
really dive into that.
A
But
couple of things, not exclusively, I would imagine, is it has to point to God. It has to tell
God-centered, right?
the truth. And those are really the two centerpieces, right? It should point to God, and it should tell the truth.
I would
So
agree, yeah.
if you have a feel-good song that's talking about how much strength you have in your brokenness or
Then
whatever,
that's a
then
worship song about yourself.
It's lying.
Oh yeah.
And you're
and
you're,
it is lying.
and you're listening to lies. And when you look at it that way, it's like, oh, why do I like this so much if it's not the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to hear lies. I want things to tickle my ear and to entice me, not to point to my actual situation or maybe my sin struggle or real life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not all rainbows and butterflies down here. And I don't think we should pretend in our music that it is either.
Yeah, I would agree.
But that's just my thought.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just the music that they picked today for worship, but I actually do remember, I don't know if it was because our foster child was sitting with us, but it kind of hit me how honest the music was about our sin and our need for a savior. And it's like, that's easy to talk about when you're amongst other people who believe the same.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you're kind of more hyper aware of someone else that's hearing it, it's like, whoa, we're saying some really brutally honest stuff right now.
Yeah. Stuff that is offensive even.
It is. It's highly offensive
to people who don't believe that they're sinners.
Right.
You know.
And that's good.
Well, yeah. And it's not okay to water it down for the sake of like, oh well, we'll just like, you know, if we can play enough feel good music, people will be like, oh, why do Christians feel so good?
Yeah.
And we'll go check it out. You know what I mean? It's like, we're here to tell people the truth and the good news that has come to us, you know, in the form of Jesus. He died for us. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, we'll get to the death part thing later. You know, that's a little too rough at the beginning to tell somebody. We'll just tell them about this great guy that lived, you know, and he was super cool. Like in The Chosen, right?
Finger guns.
Oh, he's super cool. Finger guns, you know. He had cracked some jokes. You know, he was nice to people. But we're not going to get to what, you know, the...
So you're talking about watering down stuff. So this is not before my time. Before I was a Christian. But there was that whole controversy where people wanted to change that lyric in Christ alone, right?
Oh,
the wrath of God was satisfied.
What do they want to change it to?
I think they were saying the love of God was satisfied.
Yeah, they wanted to change it from wrath to love.
It was just that one word.
Yeah.
You know, wrath. And then I don't remember this being a discussion because I wasn't really in the church at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I have heard about it and how that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Because they didn't let people change it. They're like, no, if you're going to sing our song, you're going to sing it.
I think people still did the love of
they
God
probably did. And, you know, what are you going to do? But the Gettys were like, no, we do not give you permission to sing that way.
Yeah.
And people got really angry, I think, about that. Or they're like, those snooty Calvinists.
Well, yeah, let's not talk.
But, I mean, it is their song, so... You could say, oh, it's their right to say, no, you can't change it. But yeah, there's a deeper discussion there. Why do you want to change that? Why don't you want to sing about the wrath of God?
It's easier. It's easier for the people who are leading that church to not have to talk about the wrath of God, honestly.
Well, how appalling would it be if you are preaching a sermon, doesn't mention wrath at all, and then you're singing a song and it's like the wrath of God was satisfied? Like, whoa, where'd that come from? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't that wasn't in the message. So I think it does probably highlight,
well, it comes down to
deeper things,
at least in my experience, right? In the church that I grew up in, the place wasn't about pointing you to Christ. I think at the time it was. From what I've heard now, it's not about pointing you to Christ and making disciples. It's about how can we, the leadership, devise ways to help people live better lives. Like, we'll use these...
Better how?
Better, like, 10 tips to get your home in check. You know what I mean?
To be more productive, successful.
No, just be more happy.
Content.
Whatever, right? And the 10 tips are like, meditate for 5 minutes in the morning. And then the second one's like, make a schedule. Third one's like, you know, listen to this song. Nothing about prayer, nothing about, you know, walking in the Spirit, nothing about asking God to convict you of the sin that's in your life that's causing you. Because God doesn't cause, like, or he can, but most of the time our discontentment is born out of sin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
right, I would agree with that.
It's just you, and so your music matches what you're trying to do in this church, right? So the reason it's so enticing is because if the music matches your message, then it's just reinforcing it.
Mm-hmm.
and keeping people away from the hard questions. I don't want to answer those hard questions. I don't want to talk about hell or wrath or whatever, those are hard questions. Maybe questions that they're afraid of answering. Or they think, well, if we bring up those questions, it'll drive them away. So we're going to conceal the truth to keep people coming to my church. And that's insanity.
You know what comes to my mind when you say that? Evil.
Yeah.
That's evil. Like, that's not what we are, as Christians, are called to do.
No.
We give the light because we know it's dark, and we call the darkness what it is. It's dark. And then we show them Christ. And music is a powerful way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It does reinforce the gospel message, and it can deliver the gospel message in a really amazing way. I've heard lots of songs that just lay out the gospel for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. It's definitely a wonderful thing. It's, yeah, like I said, I find myself being very, very careful with the music I choose to listen to, because for, like I said, a long time there, it was an idol in my life, and it was tough. It was tough not
Really
listening to music for a little bit there, or at least the amount that I listen to now, because I just want to hear, cool beats and like interesting things that do tickle my ears. I don't care.
Well, that's the temptation.
I don't want to.
Sure.
I don't want to worry about lyrics. I don't want to worry about what this artist stands for. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. I just want to live my life. It's like, no, I can't do that.
So there's a hymn that we sing that's written by a heretic. Is it Great Is Thy Faithfulness?
I don't know.
Okay, can I share this one thing with you before we close? So, maybe it was 3 months ago, we were singing that hymn in church, and it might be the one that's written by a heretic, or maybe not, but either way, we were singing it. And have you ever had this experience in worship at church where you hear the voices of all the people around you, and it's like a foretaste of heaven? Have you felt that?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Just like euphoria.
Well, it's not. Well, yeah. I mean, it can be wonderful feeling, but it's like, I don't know how to describe it. Like the knowledge of all these souls are glorifying God, and you hear them all in unison. And it's not just. I mean, it's cool when it's one person too, but it's all of the people. And we're a small church, so it's not a huge thing, but it's like almost in their voices I can hear all of God's people. Like, I imagine that's what heaven's gonna be like. And it's fantastic. I love it. I love hearing God's people sing to him, but yeah, we were singing Great Is Thy Faithfulness, and that was like a super powerful moment. I had to stop singing because I was just like, oh my gosh, I could almost hear the strings of heaven, you know what I mean? Yeah. It sounds silly, but it is a deeply spiritual thing.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I think that's your own thing. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, it's the truth, though. That is something that we will experience. Maybe that's just a way that God ministers to some people. But it's so encouraging. I don't know. Next time we're in church, you, Ryan, or you, person listening, maybe take a moment, stop, and just listen to God's people. And it's beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing you'll ever hear.
It's definitely beautiful. I just don't think I've delved that deeply into whatever emotion I'm having. I tend to.
Well, here's the thing. It's not even specifically an emotion. It's just like, I don't know. Just the knowledge of like, these are the people that God's redeemed. Like, every single voice. That's a life that God's raised from the dead. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
It's good. It's great.
I don't value it that deeply, I guess. Not like to say that it's not valuable or like that what you're saying is not true or anything. I tend to avoid that emotion.
Let me make it clear. I'm not like seeking an experience. I'm long gone are those days. But
sure.
I do love to be reminded of how good God is by looking at his bride.
Yeah,
by looking at the bride of Jesus.
I'm not poo-pooing on that. I'm just like, for me, I don't know. I am going through a weird place with worship right now. I'm not as excited about it as that.
Well, we all go through ups and downs, different phases. God teaches us different things at different times in our lives.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with your joy.
Mm-hmm.
You're joyful in that moment.
Oh yeah,
and
that's definitely the word that I would use to describe it, is joy.
Yeah, that's something I've always struggled with forever. So, like contentment and joy.
I've struggled with contentment a lot.
Yeah.
Too.
So
maybe not so much right now, but we go through different phases.
Yeah.
I'll be praying, Ryan, that you experience true joy in
Thank
worship.
You. Yeah. my silky smooth voice.
Yes. Actually, you have a really great voice.
No.
I haven't heard you sing a whole lot, but when I do hear you sing, I'm like, man, we should do like a duet or something. I sing and I don't have that great of a voice, but I'll do it because I want to do it.
You have a great voice. I don't know. You don't tell yourself.
And you can always get better with practice too.
Dude, they have this thing called auto-tune.
No, you know what? Right now, I'm making a decision. Now that you just said that, something popped in my head.
Oh no.
We should not be auto-tuning like worship music. Not because we shouldn't in principle, but because I just think it's so beautiful to hear people's actual raw voices.
Well, you're going
They're
for
all
that
so
choir.
unique.
Yeah.
And like
that's why choirs
individual.
are so amazing. They're so powerful. Like
oh, because they all kind of like correct each
like,
other.
Okay. Can we briefly talk about Kanye?
Briefly, because we just passed an hour.
Kanye's album, dude.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back. Chick-fil-A closed on
Chick-fil-A?
Sunday. Yeah. Anyways, but the reason that I really enjoy that album, right, is one, obviously it's Kanye singing okay Christian music. I don't remember.
There's nothing wrong in it.
There's nothing wrong in it. Okay, well that's good.
As far as I know.
Step one passed. I haven't listened to it in a long time, but his use of if you go back and listen, his use of the choir in almost all the songs it's just really great. And there's a lot of YouTube videos about it. Actually, you can watch the production of that album and the choir that he like hired and used, and that's why the songs feel so powerful. Is that you can't replicate that.
That's what I'm trying to describe to you. All of God's people joining in praise. The choir.
No, yeah, I understand.
Like, it's so powerful.
I understand.
A multitude of voices.
But I associate that feeling with the feeling, right? My emotion. I have not associated it with something beyond that, which is interesting to think about. Which is where you were taking it. I'm just saying I have not had that same nuanced like feeling about it, I guess.
Well, yeah, I want to specify, like I said, it's not just a feeling. It is a feeling, but it's not just a feeling. It's a feeling backed by and fueled by like true knowledge. You know what I mean?
Well, because
like, because you can
those are
have
your
an
brothers
you
and
can have an
sisters, yeah.
empty feeling, but then when you experience a good feeling backed by something that is true,
Mm-hmm.
that can be pretty powerful. And that's what real worship music does. It stirs your emotions in the truth.
Yeah. It stirs your emotions for the right thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice to not be sold something when it has to do with music. You know what I mean?
Right. It's
Like, I don't know how to explain it.
Christian music really does the opposite, and instead of, you know, pushing something on you, it serves you. It's serving you.
Yeah. Well,
When God's people write those hymns and those songs, they're
Mhm.
serving the body.
Well, it's why people still go to, like, the medium that it's being presented to you into is, like, why people still go to live concerts. There is a difference in what you feel when you're at a live conference and to when you just listen to
A
it
live conference.
or
Yeah.
live.
No, I agree. Sorry, I didn't mean to run over your point.
That's
agree.
weird. A live show, whatever, concert. That's the word I was looking for.
Uh-huh.
Versus just listening to your headphones. And it is that experience, right? But is that experience what goes through my mind is that experience just an experience? Like,
No,
am I just...
It shouldn't be.
Sure, but my physiological reaction to it, to hearing something beautiful...
That's given to you by God.
But I can just go fake it with...
But it's not the same, Ryan.
See, and that's the thing, right?
It's not the same. It's so much better when it is founded in truth.
Well, and when you can trust that. And that I
Yeah.
think that's what I'm getting at, right? I'm not being sold something that's fake. I'm being
Yes.
given something in
The
the
real
truth
deal.
by people I trust, whose hearts are in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it special to me. Not just the feeling.
Yeah. I think what you're describing is probably your desire to not settle for less, because you have tasted and seen that the Lord is good.
Mm-hmm.
You know the gospel, which is the most beautiful message
Mm-hmm.
on the earth ever possible. And so when you're being handed something less, it's not appealing. It's like, don't even try to give me this, because I've had this other thing that is just so much better. It so far outshines this lesser thing that you can't even try to be content with something less than, you know.
Yeah.
When you have,
It's definitely hard.
yeah.
It hurts.
Not that
hurts me.
less than thing is inherently bad, but it's like, man, I know something that's just so much better than this. All right, well, I think I could probably go on talking about this forever, but I think we should probably end it there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, this was good. I like the open-ended just prompt, just like one word, music. Maybe we'll try it again next time.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaur. Oh, gosh.
I'm just kidding.
I don't even know what I would say.
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi. Oh my goodness. We'll figure something out. But yeah. Any closing thing you want to say?
We need like a closer.
We do need a closer, man.
Like was
Need
it
to
Todd
think of something
Friel?
good.
Now
Oh,
go
yeah.
serve your king.
I heard Keegan say that the other day. He's like, until tomorrow, go serve your king. And I was like, yes. Oh, all right. Well, yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you for listening.
Bye.